I think the important place to start is that we can have both people-centered cultures and profitable businesses. And I think a lot of times people think you can only have one or the other. Well, I can just be a nice guy or I can make money. And that's not the case at all. I have lots of clients who are doing both. And so we have to reframe it from an either or to a both and. Both have incredible company culture, people that are well cared for, policies that support actual humans and how we live and the needs that we have in this world. And we can be innovative and creative and create products and services that are desirable and paid well for. And we can have businesses that are thriving and sustainable.
Welcome to the Connectors Podcast, where we dive into the art of building meaningful connections to empower your personal and professional life. We're Jolyn and Quinten, and together we explore how connections can transform your journey towards happiness, growth, and fulfillment. This fall, we're launching a special series called Redefining Leadership, a conversation for anyone bridging the gap between where you are and where you want to go. Whether you're leading a team, running a business, or stepping into a new chapter, leadership and entrepreneurship come with challenges, lessons, and growth moments. Our guest entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers will share how their experiences shape them, the connections and support that help them, the hard truths they face, and the insights they've gained about themselves and others. So let's jump in. Today on the show, we have Ashley Cox.
Welcome,
you. Ashley.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, Quinten and Joe.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
And
I'm just going to put you on a bit of a pedestal and introduce you to our listeners. So we are delighted this week on the Connectors Podcast. We are joined by Ashley Cox, a leadership mentor, sought-after speaker, and author of Transform Your Stories. Leveraging over 18 years of experience mentoring leaders from startups to household names like J.Crew and Kroger, Ashley helps women build high-performance teams they trust without sacrificing their humanity. As part of our fall series, Redefining Leadership, we'll explore how your so-called weaknesses can become your leadership superpowers, why softness is actually a strength, and the 3 trust factors every high-performance team needs to thrive. Let's jump in.
Yes, let's do it.
Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you both. I'm so excited to be here on the Connectors Podcast. This is such a thrill for me.
So good to have you. And where are you calling in from today?
I am in Northeast Tennessee, a little town called Johnson City. You may have heard of it in the song Wagon Wheel. That's kind of our claim to fame.
I love that. Do you have a large wagon wheel?
Unfortunately, I do not. I do not have my very own wagon wheel, but one day, maybe when we have our big farm property, I will have my very own.
I love that idea.
My mom used to buy, she would never buy like treats when we were growing up very often. It was always like she'd bake. And do you remember the wagon wheel treats? They were like the chocolate covered marshmallow.
Oh, yeah.
Thing with the cookie crumb on the inside.
Yep.
They were called wagon wheels.
Oh, I love it. That's so
Excellent.
Funny. That's such a good connection. I'm originally from West Virginia. So basically this very similar area, like in the heart of Appalachia. So it's always funny to see the connections and things that people make and just, where we come from and where we're going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the Appalachian Mountains and the trail is on my list of walks to do because I love doing long trails.
Oh, you should definitely do it. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I've read so many stories about it. It sounds amazing.
Yeah. And if you get to visit Appalachia in the fall, there's no better place on earth. I'm convinced. It is absolutely stunning.
Oh my God, that's gorgeous. And fall is now. Fall is the time that we're talking about. So tell us, Ashley, how has your summer been? What are you up to? What are you excited about?
Summer has been good. It's been full of a lot of really interesting connections since we're talking on the Connectors Podcast. It's been full of a lot of great conversations. I've been relaunching my new brand, which has been a lot of fun this summer, and just kind of reintroducing myself and my work to the world. I've been in business now for 9 years. We celebrated a 9-year anniversary in July, which is just it's wild to think about because I was in corporate for 10 years and I've almost been on my own now for the same amount of time. And so last year in 2024, I had a bit of an identity crisis and had started to feel that I was really not wanting to do the HR work that I had been doing for the last 8 years. And I was like, what if I just stripped that out and I just focused on women's leadership development? Because that's the area where I'm really excited. That's what fulfills me the most. It's where I create the greatest impact with my clients and the conversations that I'm having. So I decided to make a big pivot. And so this summer's really been a lot about reintroducing myself. A lot of my clients used to call me HR Ashley. So I was like, whoa, if I'm not HR Ashley, who am I? And so it's been a really fun summer of just like reclaiming who I am and reimagining my own identity and kind of stripping off the layers that just don't fit or make sense anymore.
Oh, you're speaking our language with all the R's because we like talking reinvention.
Love a good reinvention.
Love a good reinvention. Oh, there's so much to unpack there. Okay, very exciting.
It's very
Congratulations
exciting.
Thank you.
On building your own business. Quinten and I are both in the midst of that as well. We started the podcast almost a few years ago, and so for me, I was in corporate 22 years, and I just left last year. So I'm just kind of starting this new trajectory. So I can already see where the challenges are, but where the excitement is as well. Like it's a very, very different space. So how did you, when you were talking about the identity piece, how did you kind of start to strip away that part, the HR part of yourself? Because sometimes we can be very tied to what we do and it is our identity. Like when you go to a networking event, people say, what do you do? That's the first thing people ask. And I always cringe when I hear that question because I'm like, I don't know what I do. I do whatever. Like I do all kinds of things.
I do too much.
But I don't like the label, it's like tying it to your title. So what did that start to look like for you when you started to shift your identity into this new space?
Oh, definitely a lot of existential crisis. It was not easy.
Sorry.
Please laugh because I do. And I think that it's so relatable. I think that so many of us are just tied to this identity that we've either had for so long or that has been bestowed upon us. I always tell people, I didn't sign up for HR. Like HR found me and sucked me in. And that's how I ended up in HR. But it was because of the way that I showed up in the world. It was because I cared about people. It was because I, had robust training programs and I took care of new hires and I made sure that, the employees that were under my care had the supports that they needed. And so it was just a very natural part of my personality. So when it came to saying, man, I think I'm done with HR, it wasn't I'm done with people. It was I'm done with having to do things like researching hours and hours worth of employment law, building policies and reviewing employee handbooks and the things that kept me from having the conversations that in my expertise was where I really shined. I'm great at HR. I really am. And I'm also not super in love with sitting and writing policies for hours and hours on end all by myself. I'm entirely too social for that. And so being able to have conversations with people and really I love solving the puzzles and looking at the big picture and connecting the dots and figuring out, okay, this employee did this and this was the result and here are the conversations we're having. How do we navigate that? How do we make sure that everyone's dignity is intact at the end of the day? How do we make sure that the leader is getting what they need from their team members, but also that the team is getting what they need from their leaders? And that's not housed within a policy. It's not housed within a process. It's not housed within, the things that are important to have as underpinnings in our business, but it's housed in the heart. And it's housed in the soul and it's housed in the way that we care for people and the way that we show up. And I was like, that's who I am. And so once I kind of figured out that this wasn't me failing at something. It wasn't me giving up something. It wasn't me being flighty or, shifty or, I don't know. I want to do the flavor of the thing today. When I really grounded into my values, my skill set, my expertise, my heart, that's where I was like, okay, this is the right move.
I love that perspective. Yeah. Go ahead, Quinn.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're talking about, because my company is called the Design Co-op, and we do a lot of contracts that are around web, graphic design, instructional design. And I tended in the last 3 years to have more and more clients from nonprofits. And their needs are HR and communications. So I've, in the last few years, have been sucked into the whole HR thing and had to create a whole bunch of boring policies and all that.
It's a vortex, man, I'm telling you.
It's a never-ending vortex. So yeah, I'm feeling your pain, and I won't go on too much about it because we have both sat in that lukewarm bathwater. So let's. Oh, sorry, that was not a good metaphor. I'll cut that out.
I feel like that really was, though.
Anything goes here, Ashley.
Sorry, dear. Sorry.
I just love you too.
Sorry.
We love you too. I can tell you I love to talk. And it's interesting. I was thinking about when I was reading through some of your topic notes, and you mentioned about how you said talking too much became your leadership superpower. Yeah. I can relate because we're doing podcasters, I think, like to talk, that's one thing we like to do. When I was younger, all my report cards said, Jolyn's talking too much in class. She's distracted. She's, and you're kind of stifled from that point to be like, oh, I need to fall in line. I need to be quiet. I need to be a good girl. And I was like, fuck that. That's not me. I'm not that at all. So, I want to hear more just about how did you turn that into your superpower, and how can other people, I guess, take something that they think is considered by society or the structures that we're in sometimes that tell us opposite and how we need to behave can end up being something that actually is that we tap into later in life as a superpower.
Yeah. Same for me. I don't think I had a single report card that I ever came home with that didn't say Ashley talks too much. My ninth grade teacher, though, did put it in the kindest way, I do believe, and said Ashley has a great gift for conversation or something to that variety.
Nice.
I'm sure it will serve her well somewhere at some point in her life, but it's not currently happening right now. I was like, okay, I guess fair. But I do think that there were a lot of years that it held me back. It held me back from asking questions or sharing opinions or ideas or thoughts. And I eventually got to the point where I had an experience where I had to use my voice and to advocate for myself and to speak up for what was right and to not let a very toxic situation that was going down continue. And at that point, I was like, I threw all my cards on the table and I was like, listen, either we remedy this right now or I'm going to have to give my 2 weeks notice. And it very much was a pivotal part in my career and as my life as a young leader. I was like 25 at the time. And so, I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. I wasn't, taking care of children, and I had a house, but I didn't have a lot of other responsibilities and things that that were dependent on me, and being able to just throw the ultimatum of, well, if we don't fix this, then I'm leaving on the table was a lower risk for me than it was for a lot of people who might have been in a similar situation. But the manager that I worked for at the time very much was hampering my voice, was not supporting ideas, wasn't promoting my own learning and growth and development. And so I eventually had a conversation with my district manager and said, listen, this is not working for me. I have a lot to offer this company. And I'm not going to be able to do that here in this situation. And so I requested a transfer to another location. I said, I'll show you what I've got. I promise I won't let you down. And in that conversation, even my district manager had said, well, I don't want to hear anything bad about my managers. And you better not make me look stupid if I, send you to another location. I mean, it was just a very toxic time in my life. And so that was an opportunity for me to say, you know what, this is not okay. I'm going to stand in my power. I'm going to use my voice. The voice that I had been told for years, talked too much, didn't have anything important to say, was constantly squashed and hampered. And I was like, if I can't use my voice here, I'll go find somewhere else to use it. Because I was done. I kind of got to that point too, Joe. I was like, fuck it. If I can't do it here, then I will find somewhere that appreciates it. And that was the best career move that I ever made, because I went on and I had a manager who was incredible and who built me up. And he immediately was like, I don't know why anybody ever thought you're the best manager I've ever had. And so it was a really special time in my life to go on and to build my confidence and to build my voice and to advocate not just for myself, but also for others. And I think that's kind of what led me down that path into being recognized as someone who would go into HR, who would go into leadership development, who would really support and care for other people, because I knew what it was like to not have a voice, to have a voice that was silenced, and I wasn't going to stand for it anymore.
Like, follow and subscribe on LinkedIn, Instagram and YouTube, and find us at theconnectorshub.com.
It takes a lot of trust to go into that new situation and hope that the company culture is such that it's going to be like this foundation that you can move from one team to another team, and that you're going to be able to sort of continue at the status quo, and there's not going to be a dip, and you're going to have to work hard to regain trust and all that. So that's my question, is how do you go into a new team and you get them to trust you?
Such a great question. I always operate under the assume positive intent, because I think that a lot of times it's easy to walk into a situation, and anybody who has had a team in a larger organization will know that a team's reputation will often precede them, in good ways and bad ways. And so I've come into teams before where I've heard nothing but bad things about the people that were going to be on that team, whether it was one person, whether it was 350 people. Well, watch out for this guy. He's a real, this and that. Or watch out for her. She doesn't like to, take direction. And so I always walk into the situation at hand with any team member and just assume positive intent. They've probably been trying their best, and maybe their voice has been silenced. Maybe their ideas have been shut down. Maybe they've tried to be a team player in the past and somebody didn't want them to be a team player for whatever reason. And so that's been my best philosophy coming into a team. Like, I'm brand new. Show me who you are. I'm going to trust you until you give me a reason not to trust you. And even then, I'm probably going to extend you a little more grace, because there's always what I call bad boss baggage. Everybody's had a shitty boss at some point in their life. And you're like, I'm taking that trauma with me right onto the next boss, right onto the next team, right into the next meeting. And so I try to look at the person that's sitting there in front of me and saying, what experiences have they had in the past that I could help create new experiences for? Where's a time where maybe they didn't feel heard or listened to, and they brought up valid concerns, but they were told they were a Debbie Downer? Those are important relationships to cultivate. And as soon as you come into any new team or any new situation, it's your job to come in with eyes wide open and be really, really accepting of who are these people sitting in front of me, and assuming that they all want to come to work and do a good job, because most people do. Most people don't come to work and say, oh, I want to be the complete biggest pain in your foot today. Most people are like, I want to come to work. I want to do a good job. I want to make my paycheck, and I want to go home to my family. That's pretty much the long and short of it. And if we can create meaningful relationships and they get to do work that matters while they're there, that's the sweet spot.
I think you said bad boss baggage. Is that what you said?
That's such a good phrase.
Because but that's true. It's like, think about even in relationships, in romantic relationships or friendships, you do carry that with you. If you've had a negative experience, it's hard not to have your guard up with other people once you meet new people. You don't want to, but that guard can be up. And I like that you take that approach of keeping it really neutral and that you're just going to assume positive intent because, I think if you go in with that energy, it's different than going in with the energy of like, okay, someone's whispered in your ear and you now have your eyes on all these people that, oh, that guy's this way, this woman's that way. And I don't like that when people try to do that with me, when someone tries to oversell somebody or undersell somebody. I'm like, I want to make my own decision, even if I get hurt, because I just really, unless it's kind of, like a serial killer or something.
There are some warnings that are worthwhile.
Know that information.
there are definitely some warnings that are worthwhile. But one of my very best employees, I received the worst comments on her when I started from multiple people in the department and outside of the department. Just like, she's really stubborn, she's hard-headed, she's not a team player, she's really slow, like she has a bad attitude. I mean, like every possible like slam they could make at her. I was like, oh, wow, okay, well, let's see, I guess. And I was brand new to this division in the company. I was brand new to this team. I was kind of an outsider, so it was an opportunity to come in and really not have been entrenched in all of that for years. And she'd been there for like 25 years. So she'd been there a long time. And I'm like, if she was so terrible, why didn't anybody fire her? Like, this sounds like a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah.
And so when I met her, she was lovely and she was reserved. And she was really hesitant. Like, I know that they say bad things about me, but I promise you, like, I really want to do a good job. And I was like, well, let's do a good job together. And within 6 months, I was giving her 5, 10 stars across the board. I was telling everybody she is the most amazing employee. And it wasn't that I created her. I didn't change who she was. I just let her be who she always was, and that other people didn't. And that's the difference. That's the difference. Like, we get to create that kind of change just by showing up in a different way.
Like that made me think back to when I was teaching music and English to middle and high schoolers. And you have to allow these teenagers so much patience, and you have to clean that slate every new lesson. You have to be like, hey, Edgar, nice to see you in my class again. Come, let's do good music. Even though you're a little shit that like swore at me in the last class and I had to send you to the headmaster again. And I know you're not going to hand in the project next week, as usual. But hey, Edgar, nice to see you. Welcome to class. It's such a good lesson to learn.
I feel like anybody who teaches middle schoolers and high schoolers should get some sort of medal, because that is a really tumultuous time, and you've got hormones and brain functioning developing, and they're trying to learn how to be adults, but they're still children. And like, it's such a challenging time. And I think that's such a beautiful way to approach it, Quinten. It's like, I'm going to wipe the slate clean every day, give you another chance, because one day they're going to do something that really makes you go, oh, wow, they were listening the whole time. Or they're going to write you a letter 10 years in the future going, I'm sorry, I was such a pain in class, but because you cared, I'm successful and I'm doing these great things now. And I think that's the mark of a really great teacher and a really great leader. I've had employees come back that I've had to fire who have thanked me because they knew that it wasn't the right job. It wasn't the right fit. And that the firing wasn't malicious, but that it was kind of the wake-up call that they needed to say, I wasn't happy here and I was taking it out on everyone around me. And now I'm doing work that I'm really excited about in a place that really values what I have to offer. And I'm like, that's amazing. And so everybody's not meant for every job just because they're in it. And I think that's important to remember too. And having those conversations where we're like, you're not a bad person, but I don't think this job is for you. Now, of course, school, you don't really get a choice in. You got to go to school. So you got to make it through. But there's just like so much nuance to the human spirit and the way that we show up in this world.
Ashley, I love your honesty and your soft approach, to leadership. I think that's from my experience in the different environments I've been in and in corporate. And I haven't always spoken kindly of corporate. Obviously, I learned a ton and I had a lot of fun too. But there were times that I saw where it worked against the way I work, or the way that I thought the teams could flourish more, or I saw, things that were being swept under the rug that were never talked about, or there was people that were higher up that were getting away with way more. It was like, how is this, how is this happening? And we've had some other guests on the show that have talked about like conscious leadership, where, you're really just like tapping into that awareness. And it sounds like you have this really good awareness and presence with people. You're not just trying to, make the dollar for the company or do it out of your own agenda. It really is because you care about people. How can we teach leaders that this is really important, that it's not just about driving results, but it's about like how you show up for your team and your people each day, and for yourself, like leading yourself with, integrity and all those things?
Yeah, this is such a great question. Thank you so much for asking this. I think the important place to start is that we can have both people-centered cultures and profitable businesses. And I think a lot of times people think you can only have one or the other. Well, I can just be a nice guy or I can make money. And that's not the case at all. I have lots of clients who are doing both. And so we have to reframe it from an either or to a both and. We get to both have incredible company culture, people that are well cared for, policies that support actual humans and how we live and the needs that we have in this world. And we can be innovative and creative and create products and services that are desirable and paid well for. And we can have businesses that are thriving and sustainable. And actually the data supports that businesses that have company cultures and policies that support people, they have happier people, and happier people are more productive people. And those people are loyal and they stay long term. And that creates that sustainable business structure that we want to have. And you don't just have a business that is around for decades and decades because you're treating everybody like garbage. But sometimes you can take advantage of people, and that's exactly the kind of business you create, but you're dealing with turnover that's insane. And you're constantly spending money and time and energy retraining and retraining and retraining because you have all these new people in the company. And that's not a really great business process either. So the first thing is just realizing you get to have both and the second thing is it's a lot more fun to lead a team when you're having a good time with them. So if you're stressed out, if you're feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, nobody on your team can be trusted, nobody's pulling their weight, you're carrying everything, and you're also acting like a fireman with your hose, and you're like trying to put out fires all day long, treating people with humanity and decency and kindness will actually alleviate quite a lot of that. And I think that's worthwhile, especially for leaders who are burnout and overwhelmed and feeling kind of the weight of the world on their shoulders. And really just thinking about, what is your vision for the future? What is your goal? What is your dream? What are you trying to create in this world? I work with a lot of purpose-driven business owners. And I know, Quinten, you mentioned working with a lot of nonprofits in your business. And I love working with people who are creating a bigger impact ripple beyond just the business. And that means things like you're taking care of your people, because now they're able to go home and they're kinder to their families. They're kinder to the people in their community. They're building things that are helping other people. I've got clients who have law firms who have pro bono departments. I've got, and these are small law firms. These aren't multi-billion dollar, 40 attorneys in a law firm. This is like a 2 or 3 woman shop. I've got clients who've started, equine therapy is an example. Like, that's completely unrelated to her standard business that she's running, but she was like, it's meant so much to me. She has a child with disabilities. This is the type of therapy that she's benefited from. And so she started that on her own. Like, how are we showing up in this world? How are we creating something bigger and more meaningful and more impactful together? And you get to do that with your team. And that's just like, there's so much there. I could talk about this all day, guys, but I'll leave it at those kind of like 3 mainish points.
Love it. Sorry, I just need to take a beat because for some reason my computer is saying that the battery's almost dead, but it's plugged in. So I just want to ensure that we're not going to all of a sudden drop. And if we do, I apologize.
Sounds fair.
Why is this happening?
Why are you still having computer problems?
I don't know.
Shame, Joe.
Talking
sucks.
about vortexes, Joe's house must be like a tech vortex or something.
I do not know. This is so weird. Everything's plugged in. Man.
I wondered where you went. You were like, whoop.
I can hear Joe talking.
So where are you all located then?
Us?
I didn't
Yeah.
ask.
So, yeah, absolutely. So I'm in Montreal,
Okay.
in Quebec province, and
Nice.
then Joe is in Ontario, the province next to me, and she's in London. So it's about 2 hours from Toronto, something like that.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I've
awesome.
been here for 11 years.
11. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been in Tennessee for 10 years now. Before
Okay.
that, my husband and I were in Virginia. And before that, we were in Indianapolis, Indiana. And then we were in Virginia. And then like just a little
Okay.
ping ponging all over the place, but mostly just in the same little general area. Uh-oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Joe's computer
She's
really
gone.
did. It said
She-
goodbye.
She was serious. I guess we're finishing the podcast.
It'll be an interesting way to end it.
It
And
would.
so Ashley went on a tirade, and then Joe's computer shut down, and we were like, "Wow,
Time for
today.
lunch. Bye. Shame.
oh my gosh!" Well, Andrew Stout is the one that introduced me to you all. Do you know Andrew, or is it Joe that knows Andrew?
It's Joe that knows Andrew, but I believe he's going to come and talk on the show. So
Oh,
it'd be
okay.
nice to meet
Yeah.
him. Yeah,
He
yeah.
is such a lovely, lovely
There we
human
go.
being. Hello and welcome back.
My apologies.
She's popped back up
it's,
again.
It's still recording. Okay, amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it must have
yeah, it re-
transferred it when you left.
It kept recording on our side. So it was
Awesome.
perfect.
And we're back.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you for your patience. My apologies. I figured it out.
No, not at all. Is it all? It's all good. It's
all good. All
Good.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
Excellent.
see where I have. Oh, I just messed with this again. What am I doing here?
Uh-oh, something's happened, Joe.
There we go. Okay.
Ashley.
Anyway, we don't need to talk about my technology. We are good. I'm plugged
Okay, cool.
in and we're charging, so we're fine. Okay, where did we leave off?
Well, I was just about to ask Ashley about her book because I want to know
Okay.
more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So my book is Transform Your Stories, and it's all about the stories we tell ourselves, especially as women. It's written from my perspective. It really is the book that I needed at a certain point in my life. And I was like, if I needed it, I wonder perhaps there are others who might need it as well. And so it's the stories we tell ourselves about how we're not capable enough, how we don't belong, how we can't use our voice in various situations. And I tell a lot of personal stories in there. It was a very vulnerable book to write, but it was way worse when I hit publish. And I was like, oh God, other people are actually going to read this now.
Yeah.
But I thought, one of the best ways to talk through this process of these are stories I believed that weren't true. And here's the way that I worked through those so that I could show up in bigger, more powerful ways, was to tell my very own stories. And I also pulled in some stories from friends and clients, all anonymously and with their permission. But, just showing different ways that we might not think it's a big deal at the time, but those little stories that kind of seep in and they hold us back and keep us playing small are the very things that we need to work through and overcome. And so I talk a lot about, challenging those assumptions that we have about ourselves. I didn't put this in the book, but maybe this is addition two. But it's also assuming positive intent about ourselves, assuming that we are trying to show up in our very best way and that we're doing the best we can with the background that we have, with the upbringing that we were raised in, with the culture that we're raised in. And sometimes those things aren't true. And so it's constantly asking ourselves, wait a second, I feel like I don't belong in this room. Is that true? If it's not true, what's true instead? Why am I feeling nervous? Why am I feeling scared? Why do I feel like my voice doesn't belong here? And just really challenging those stories so that we can transform them to become more powerful. Yeah, it's okay for me to be nervous and I belong here. And these are the reasons why. So it's really just kind of a personal journey and a lot of journaling and interactive exercises and prompts and things, because I love a good workbook style book. So I was like, well, let me just write it in this version. But I've gotten a lot of really great feedback. Even people who don't have teams have read it and said, this is a book about leading yourself, not just how to show up as a leader for others.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, because I think that's why we're all here, right? We do love to share our stories, but also learn to maybe break them apart a little bit and find out what's underneath them and what's going on beneath the surface.
Like, follow and subscribe on LinkedIn, Instagram and YouTube, and find us at theconnectorshub.com.
Is there something from the book that you could share in terms of, you said there were little snippets of other people's stories, but like a connection that you made of someone or someone who inspired you within the book, where you took their story and added it?
Oh, a story in the book. Oh gosh, now you're really testing my knowledge. I wrote it like 5 years ago, and it is not something you go back and read your own book over and over because you read it so much in the editing process. You're like, I don't ever want to read this again. But yeah, a connection would definitely be, there was a time where this is one of my personal stories, but involves other people. I was invited to be a subject matter expert for the world's largest HR organization, which is SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management. And I had been invited to come to DC to work on a project for a few days. And there was this whole global community, people from, I think, 15 different countries were there working. And I sat in that room and I started getting like the cold sweats and panicking, and my heart was racing. And I was like, I don't belong here. Who am I? At that time, I was raised in West Virginia. I had lived in small towns. I really wasn't from anywhere big or impressive. And I just kept thinking like, wow, they've brought people in from Egypt and Australia and the UK and India and all of these places around the world. And I was like, they must be really incredibly intelligent. What am I doing here? Like they've brought them halfway around the world and I'm like 6 hours down the road. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, okay, what if this isn't true? What if I belong just as much as they do? We all have different perspectives. Okay, what can I contribute today? Just contribute what I can contribute today. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I don't have to be the most experienced person in the room. I'm here for a reason. They saw something meaningful in my background that adds another flavor, another layer of experience and expertise to this project. And as the day went on, I kept getting incredible feedback from the leaders that had invited us there. Like, your work is nearly flawless. We only had to make one tweak in, 6 hours of work that you've produced. We wish everybody could be this detailed. And I was like, okay, I'm here for a reason. I didn't necessarily need that external validation because I knew my work was good, but I needed that external validation because I didn't think that I was good. And so, whether people think that you need external validation or not, it's important. It matters. And if you've been feeling like you don't belong or your voice doesn't matter or you shouldn't be sitting in a room, let this message today be your validation that you do belong, that you have a voice. It's important for you to share and you absolutely belong in that room.
Ashley, I'm about to praise, like start singing gospels and shouting amen. I thought this a few minutes ago, and I love the way you talk. You speak in such a positive way, in such an empowering way. That's definitely something I'm going to take from this conversation and try to work for myself, is empower myself a little more and empower the people around me a little more, because you've got such a wonderful way of expressing yourself and the relationships that you have with the people around you. I'm not at all surprised that you're focusing on empowering female leaders. And now I want to talk about that.
May
What's
I
your
just
new
add one
project?
thing? I just want to add one
Did we
thing.
freeze?
I love what you said, because basically what you did is you took your own story and reframed it in real time. Right. So you took the story of, why are they inviting me? There's other people who are going to be smarter, and then you took that and you reframed it, and that shifted. And I'm a big person. I believe in energy. Like when I don't like somebody, they don't even need to speak, but I'll just know, because energetically they don't feel good to me. And we need to listen to that in our bodies a little bit more. So what you had done is taken your energy and shifted it. And then the validation that you got validated that shift in your energy, and you were in it. So you've heard of self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because if you had left your story the way that it was, and then maybe those things didn't happen because energetically you weren't in that space, then the self-fulfilling prophecy would be like, oh, see, why did I get invited? They didn't validate me. They didn't. So reframing things that way really is empowering yourself, for sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Love that.
Thank you both so much. I really appreciate that. It feels good to do work that is so deeply rooted in my own values and heart and the way that I show up in this world. And one of the things I actually talk about in the book, Joe, is confirmation bias, because we start to look for things that confirm how we don't belong, how our voice doesn't matter, how we don't have good ideas. And we have to break through that cycle. And I think, having that pattern disruption to say, wait a second, is this true? And even having other people that you are connected with, that you can borrow their confidence or their belief in you until you can build it in yourself, is so powerful. And I've had many of those people throughout my own life where I'm like, I suck. Everything I do sucks. This is terrible. What am I doing with my life? And so they're like, no. And they breathe life into you. So if you don't have somebody in your corner who can breathe life into you, that you can borrow their belief, their energy, their confidence in you, find you somebody who can, because it's really so powerful to have their voice in the back of your head as well.
So true.
Totally.
So yes, as Quinten was asking, we definitely want to hear more about how are you empowering women with what the work you're doing now. Obviously, it's very apparent. we can see it based on how you speak and your passion towards what you do. But I'd like to understand a little bit more about what is the work you do with leaders, and is it, do you go in to work with different teams? Is it more one-on-one entrepreneurs? Yeah, share a little bit more about that.
Yeah. My sweet spot, and I've been around the block now for 9 years, like I said, my sweet spot are those one-on-one intimate conversations with women who are leading teams and they're growing their businesses. Because there's a lot of times where they don't have anyone that they can go to vent their frustrations, to be upset about how things are going that day, to help them push back and question some of the things they're saying. I have a client who loves to say, I don't know, I think I'm being paranoid. And every single time she says that, I'm like, okay, let's check the facts. Let's see what the situation is. Are we being paranoid, or are you just having a really strong intuitive reaction? Like, let's take a look. Every single time for the last 4 months we've been working together, she's had really smart insights. They've been incredibly intuitive. And so we're working a lot on trusting yourself. How do you take what you've been telling yourself is paranoia and turn that into, no, this is good instinct. This is intuition. This is connecting the dots. This is seeing the bigger picture and saying all these things are telling a story. It's important that we're paying attention to that. And especially as women, we're often kind of put into the position of, thinking like, well, you're just blowing things out of proportion, or you're just being hysterical, or, there's a lot of derogatory. Yeah, I see you rolling your eyes, Joe.
Did you see?
I think your soul left your body for a moment. And it's harmful, because the things that we're feeling internally, that is a gut instinct, that is an intuition, are things that can guide the decisions that we're making, the way we're taking care of our teams, the programs or products that we're putting out there for people to purchase. Whew, that was a lot of P's. And it's just allowing ourselves to trust ourselves, that we do know what's happening, what the best answer is, the best approach. A lot of times it's not me saying, okay, you're having this situation with an employee, you need to do A, B, and C. A lot of times it's like, okay, what do you feel like? What's the right answer in your gut? And it's like, well, I'd really like to do ABC. And I'm like, why couldn't you do ABC? Well, I didn't know if that was the right way. I'm like, are you taking care of people? Yes. Okay. We can't go wrong if we take care of people. We really just can't. And so I will come back to that at the end of every single day. If we're taking care of our people will take care of the things that we have need of in our business. And so it's a lot of work around, building self-leadership, building self-awareness, building trust within ourselves and within our teams. I talk a lot about the triangle of trust, which is kind of paramount to building those high-performing teams that we want to have and that we deserve to have.
For people that might not know, what is the triangle of trust?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. The triangle, I kind of just use this phrase all the time because it's just so normal for me. So I'm glad that we can talk about it a little bit more in detail. But the triangle of trust, is built on like 4 core components. Leaders have to be able to trust their teams. Teams have to be able to trust their leaders. Team members have to be able to trust each other. And at the very center, so that makes up each of the 3 sides. At the very center, we have to trust ourselves as leaders. And so everything radiates from us being able to trust ourselves. If we can't trust ourselves, we're not going to be able to build trust with our team. They're not going to be able to trust us because if we don't trust us, like who else will? And then team members are going to have a hard time trusting one another because we're not able to facilitate and build that trust within the team.
Oh, okay. I like that.
I like that. That's a simple yet clear model that just
I
tells
just
you
drew
exactly
it. I was like,
what to do.
Yes, you nailed it. You nailed it. I love it. I love it. Yes, for all of you listeners at home, it's just a triangle with a core in the center. And it really is just powerful because a lot of times what I'll work with clients on is where is trust not existing in your business right now? Are we not trusting ourselves to make decisions, to lead with wisdom and heart and value? Are we not trusting our team to follow through and get things done? And what are the strategies that we can employ to start building trust in those different areas? You may have team members who really trust one another because they've built some sort of bond and they've kind of weathered the storm together, so to say, AKA you might be the storm they're weathering. And so sometimes, like we are the problem in our own teams and in our own businesses. And so being able to say, okay, where does the trust not exist? And how can I intentionally build that trust is so important. So, if you don't feel like you can trust your team, are you giving clear expectations? Are you helping to build a culture where it's safe for people to make mistakes, or are they scared to make mistakes so they just don't try? And now you can't trust them to get anything done because you've created the culture where it's not safe. So we have to look at the safety, the psychological safety that we're creating within our cultures that can really bolster or break down that trust as well.
That also takes, though, accountability. And I think there's a lot of leaders and teams that don't want to take accountability because it means, we have to look at ourselves. We have to look at what's actually breaking down. And I might be a contributor or it's something like a bigger piece that maybe the company can't shift or change because it's too broad or too big. How, I guess, do you work with leaders to get them to sort of take accountability for the things that they're contributing to, whether it's positive or negative or...
Yeah, for sure. Usually, like, don't you want to fix this problem? It's like, humor is a big part of my work. I'm like, okay, listen, we can keep doing the same thing and keep getting the same results, but you wouldn't be here if you wanted to do that. So if we want to fix the problem, we might have to take a hard look at where you might be contributing. And it's okay because I'm going to share stories about the ways that I've screwed up and the ways that I've held my team back and the ways that I've been the problem. And I always say, if your team's confused, you're confusing. And that's the first place to start.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we have to be just willing to say, like, I've dealt with this problem long enough that it's become such a pain point and such a hindrance to growing my business or reaching my goals or fulfilling the vision that I want to create for my business or for my team that I've I'm ready to take a good hard look. And sometimes it takes a while for folks to get there. A lot of people have to get there in their own time. But it's interesting because when folks come to me and they're like, my team does X, Y, and Z, and they're this, and they're horrible, and they're doing all these things. I'm like, oh, we can work on those things. Tell me about you.
Yeah. This sounds like a mirror.
I'm so glad you're talking about that, because even like Quinten and I have openly shared, we had a little bit of a scuffle last year, and I think some of it had to do with trust for sure. Like, and so it forced us to look at everything and just like, okay, where do we want to go from here? Do we want to continue and work this out, or is this kind of like a pivotal moment for the podcast? And luckily, we both came to the table more rationally after we had some, some moments of frustration. And then we shared a little bit about it on the show too. Cause like, we just like that energy can sometimes come across even in the show together. And we didn't want that. We wanted to make sure that we were working through it. And I'm getting chills while I'm talking about it, actually.
I love it. I love it. It's
great.
I always say to give you guys like some comfort. Anywhere there is more than one person working together, there will be conflict.
Yeah.
We bring our own backgrounds, our own perspectives, our own, ways of working and being in this world. And eventually that is going to rub with someone else's way that they work and the way that they are in this world. And the pivotal thing is, what is this relationship important? Is the work that we're doing important? And is it worth it to resolve for this and keep moving forward? And in most cases it is. And so there's always this moment where I'm like, there are times where we have a visceral reaction and then we have an intentional response. And so we want to try to avoid that visceral reaction. Like the first thing I'm thinking or saying probably isn't the thing that I should be actually putting out there into the world, right? Like I'm having some real big feelings about this right now. I should probably go sit in my office by myself for about 30 minutes and calm down. Then I can formulate, how do I actually want to respond to this? How do I ground this into my values? How do I ground this into who I want to be in this world? And how do I come at this with that assuming positive intent? I'm trying to assume that you weren't trying to be a jerk face to me, but we were in a heated conversation and you were passionate about the thing that you were advocating for. And I was passionate about the thing I was advocating for. And both of those things are valid. So how do we come together and say, okay, here's where we agree, here's where we differ, and what kind of decisions can we make from this point? Assuming that we're both good people and we have good hearts and we have good intentions and we're trying to do good work together. And that's much easier said on a podcast than it is actually acted out in real life. I realize that. But that's why they call them hard conversations. They are not necessarily easy. But there are strategies that we can put into place that can. My number one thing is always like, how do we maintain the dignity of each person in this conversation, whether it's 2 people or it's 10 people on a team? Dignity is the number one thing, and not coming in on the attack. I'm not going to come in and I'm going to blame you, or I'm going to shame you, or I'm going to point the finger, or I'm going to throw you under the bus. But how can I take responsibility for what I can? Hey, I'm sorry, I spoke more harshly than I had intended to. And I'm just really passionate about this. So I'm hoping we can have a conversation about these ideas that we brought to the table.
And, also there's so many layers to it, because each person gets triggered differently by different things. And what you were talking about, going into your office and calming down, that's actually regulating your system, right? So there's physiological things that are happening as well on top of that. So if you were triggered by some kind of thing in the past, you store that in your body, that trauma, and then something in the future, it happens again. That's where you're reacting from. So there's, we don't talk a lot about that in corporate or in other kind of work environments, but I wish we did. And I'm hoping more of that stuff starts to get recognized and noticed. Not that work needs to be a place for therapy necessarily, but there are deeper things sometimes at play that we need to hold space for and learn how to work with people when it comes to those things, for sure.
Because there absolutely is productive conflict too. Like we don't create better products because everybody just agreed with the first idea that was laid out on the table. We create better products or better services or better businesses because we're challenging. well, what if this worked better than that? Well, our data from our, clients say this instead of that. So if we do, this product in this way, it's probably not going to land with our clients. We have to push and challenge and be open to innovation and creativity and not always agreeing. When we have different voices and different backgrounds and different cultures in the room, that's where we get more of that conflict that can tend to arise. And the different ways that we're raised, the different, beliefs that we hold dear, whether those are religious or spiritual or humanity-based beliefs, all of those things play such, like, there's 50, 60,000 nuances that come into every conversation between two humans who have two completely different backgrounds, even within the context of the same family. I don't see things the same way as my sister or my brother. And we were all raised in the same house with the same parents in the exact same way, right? But we all have our own little nuances and our own quirks and humanity. And so it's best just to remember that most people aren't genuinely trying to be contentious in conversations, but they get passionate, they get triggered, they get excited, they get, fill in the blank. And so it's just our job to navigate that best as possible. And when we see that, conflict arising in our team, saying like, hey guys, let's take 10 minutes. Let's just pause. Everybody collect your thoughts. Let's come back to this conversation, with some bullet points that each of us can share. Like it's also helpful to just diffuse those situations.
I love you're talking about this. What would you say to a leader, I guess, that's struggling with, like, maybe they avoid the hard conversations, and so they have this resistance to it, but they want to build more resilience to rejection and things like that?
Yeah. That's most of the clients I've worked with over the last 9 years. Because it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to say, hey, you're coming to work, late every single day. And I don't want to be mean because you work really hard when you're here, but it matters that you're on time and da, 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 da. My thing is, like, we can avoid a lot of the bigger problems that you see with teams and team breakdowns by proactively addressing the little things in the moment each day. And when you get used to having micro hard conversations every day, a lot of times you avoid the bigger problems. And when the bigger problem does happen, you've already built so much positive affinity with that person that you're sharing the good and the not so good along the way, that when you sit down to have a hard conversation, it's not just a big emotional blow up. They're like, I know you care about me. I know that I've not been performing in the best way, or I've not been showing up like I could. And I know that you're calling me out on that. And I'm sorry. A lot of times we can diffuse a lot of those really like the big outbursts, the big emotional sort of reactions, because we've built trust along the way in many conversations and many moments every single day. So tackle a small issue today and avoid a bigger issue tomorrow.
That's actually really good advice for me personally.
That's a good phrase. Yeah.
Listen,
it is, isn't it? It's good advice.
Yeah.
It's for all of us. And just because I preach it doesn't mean that it's just naturally second nature. Am I farther ahead on the curve than other people might be? Sure. I've had a lot more time having hard conversations over the last 20 years than a lot of people have, having worked in HR. Are there still conversations that make my heart race and make my palms sweaty and make me feel like, oh gosh, I'm just going to throw up. I'd rather avoid this. Absolutely. Absolutely. Whether that's at work, whether that's at home, whether that's in the community, we're always being challenged with conversations that are uncomfortable. But to me, if it's uncomfortable, that means it matters. And so it's important to have the conversation.
I was seeing the metaphor in my mind. I'm a big gardener. I love gardening. I live on the 3rd floor, so I can only have a little balcony garden. And so it's very precious to me, and I love it. And it's getting to the season where we're going to plant all of our fall bulbs and things to be ready for the spring. And it's going to be messy and dirty, and I'm going to get scratches and all that. But wow, isn't it going to be beautiful in 6 months' time, where I've survived another long winter, and to welcome me to my balcony and to the garden and to spring, I get all these beautiful flowers. And you don't get the one without the other, you don't get the fruits of the relationship that's going better if you don't do a little bit of digging and getting the hands dirty and that sort of thing.
I love your metaphor.
I love
Quinten.
that. That was perfect. That was perfect.
I just send him like plant memes on Instagram, like plants and gardening.
I love it.
That's funny.
I love a good garden analogy. I'm always in my garden too. And it's also important that there are times when the seed is below the dirt and it's dark and there's not a lot happening, or it doesn't seem like there's a lot happening. But sometimes when we're in those dark parts of business, of life, of leadership, that's when the most growth is happening. And that's when we're getting ready to just like burst through the soil and like beautiful things are coming.
I love that. So tell us, Ashley, do you have anything coming up on the horizon you're excited about or that you'd like to share? Any projects?
Yes. Well, we are getting ready to relaunch our podcast, The Impact Ripple. We are working on just breathing new life into it with the pivot that we made this past year. And I'm really excited about the conversations that we're going to be having and just the solo episodes and the guest episodes. And we've got some new little mini series things that we're planning on doing just to really help leaders build that self-trust, to build their knowledge and their expertise as being the person who is right for leading the team and leading the charge in the business that they're growing, the kind of impact that they're creating in the world. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about having hard conversations, which is going to be kind of an hint. I'll give you guys a hint. It's going to be an ongoing series, which I'm very excited about, because sometimes you just need the words. You're like, I know this is the right thing. I know that I need to have this conversation, but like, how do I start it? What do I say? How do I maintain people's dignity, but also ensure that I've got respect and that the things that I need are being followed through on, because it's a balancing act. And so one of the things my clients often say is, oh my God, I love how you said that. Say it again so I can write it down word for word.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing some of that. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you, Ashley, so much for joining us today, for sharing your expertise, your amazing sense of humor, your bubbly personality. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation.
Thank you, Ashley.
Oh, thank you so much, Quinten and Joe. I really appreciate the conversation. It really went some incredible places today. I hope people feel encouraged and safe to have hard conversations and to love people and to build businesses that are very different than what they may have experienced in the past.
And if our listeners feel this resonates and you think anyone else would like it, please share. And where can our listeners find you, Ashley?
I'm super easy to find. I'm ashleycox.co everywhere you go.
Love that.
I love it. And dear listeners, we'll make sure to have Ashley's website and her socials in the show notes. So please do reach out to Ashley. She's going to help you.
Until next time, stay connected.